2 Samuel chapter 1. Now it came to pass after the death of Shaul, when David had returned from the slaughter of the Amalekites, that David stayed 2 days in Ziklag. On the 3rd day, behold, a man came from Shaul's camp, with his clothes torn and dust on his head. Now when he approached David, he fell to the ground and prostrated himself. Then David asked him, "Where are you coming from?" "I've escaped from the camp of Israel," he answered. "How did things go?" David asked him. "Please tell me." He answered, "The troops fled the battlefield. Also many of the troops fell and died, and even Shaul and his son Jonathan are dead." David asked the young man, informing him, "How do you know that Shaul and his son Jonathan are dead?" The young man informed him and answered, "I happened by chance to be on Mount Gilboa, and look, Shaul was leaning on his spear, while the chariots and the horsemen were closing in on him. When he turned around and saw me, he called me, so I answered, 'Here I am.' Then he asked me, 'Who are you?' So I answered him, 'I am an Amalekite.' So he said to me, 'Stand now over me and kill me, for I am in agony, yet I'm still alive.' So I stood over him and killed him, because I knew he couldn't survive after he had fallen. Then I took the crown that was on his head and the bracelets that was on his arm and brought them here to my lord." Then David took hold of his clothes and tore them, and so did all the men that were with him. And they mourned, wept, and fasted until evening for Shaul and his son Jonathan, for the troops of Adonai, and for the house of Israel, because they had fallen by the sword. Then David said to the young man who informed him, "Where are you from?" "I am a son of an Amalekite outsider," he replied. Then David said to him, "How is it that you are not afraid to stretch out your hand to destroy Adonai's anointed one?" Then David called one of the young men and said, "Come and strike him down." And he struck him down, and he died. David said to him, "Your blood is on your own head, for your mouth testified against you, saying, 'I killed Adonai's anointed.'" Then David chanted this lament over Shaul and his son Jonathan, and ordered that the sons of Judah be taught the song of the bow. Behold, it is written in the book of Jashar. "Your glory, O Israel, is slain on your high places. How the mighty have fallen. Tell it not in Gath, proclaim it not in Ashkelon's streets, lest Philistines' daughters rejoice, lest daughters of the uncircumcised gloat. Hills of Gilboa, let no dew or rain be on you, nor on bountiful fields, for there the shield of the mighty ones lay defiled. Shaul's shield will no longer be anointed with oil. From the blood of the slain, from the fat of the mighty, Jonathan's bow never turned back. Shaul's sword never returned empty. Shaul and Jonathan, loved and delightful, parted neither in life nor death. They were swifter than eagles, stronger than lions. Daughters of Israel, weep over Shaul, who clothed you in scarlet and finery, who put ornaments of gold on your clothes. How the mighty have fallen in the midst of the battle. Jonathan on your heights is slain. I am distressed for you, my brother Jonathan. Very pleasing were you to me. Wonderful was your love to me, more than the love of woman. How the mighty have fallen, and the weapons of war destroyed." Chapter 2. Now it came to pass after this that David inquired of Adonai, saying, "Should I go up to one of the towns of Judah?" Adonai said to him, "Go up." "Where shall I go up?" David asked. "To Hebron," he said. So David went up there along with his 2 wives, Ahinoam of Jezreel and Abigail, the widow of Nabal the Carmelite. David also brought up his men that were with him, each with his household, and they settled in the towns of Hebron. Then the men of Judah came, and there anointed David king over the house of Judah. Then they told David, saying, "It was the men of Jabesh Gilead who buried Shaul." So David sent messengers to the men of Jabesh Gilead and said to them, "Blessed are you of Adonai, for showing this kindness to Shaul your Lord by burying him. So now may Adonai show you kindness and faithfulness, and I also will show you goodness, because you have done this thing. Now therefore be strong and brave, for Shaul your Lord is dead, and also the house of Judah has anointed me king over them. Now Abner son of Ner, Shaul's army commander, had taken Shaul's son Ishbosheth and brought him over to Mahanaim. Then he made him king over Gilead, Asher, Jezreel, Ephraim, and Benjamin, over all Israel. Shaul's son Ishbosheth was 40 years old when he began to reign over Israel, and he reigned for 2 years. But the house of Judah followed David. The time that David was king in Hebron over the house of Judah was 7 years and 6 months. Once Abner son of Ner and the troops of Shaul's son Ishbosheth went out from Mahanaim to Gibeon. Meanwhile, Joab son of Zeruiah, the troops of David, went out. They met each other by the pool of Gibeon. So they sat down, one group on one side of the pool, and the other on the other side of the pool. Then Abner said to Joab, "Now let the young men get up and compete before us." "Let them get up," Joab replied. Then they got up and came forward by number, 12 for Benjamin and for Shaul's son Ishbosheth, and 12 from David's servants. Then each grabbed his opponent by the head and thrust his sword in his opponent's side. So they all fell down together. Therefore that place was called Helkath Hazurim, Field of Blades, which is in Gibeon. The battle was very fierce that day, and Abner and the men of Israel were defeated before David's servants. Now the 3 sons of Zeruiah were Joab, Abishai, and Asahel. Asahel was as swift-footed as one of the gazelles of the field. Asahel pursued Abner, not swerving to the right or to the left from pursuing Abner. Then Abner looked behind him and asked, "Is it you, Asahel?" "It is I," he answered. So Abner said to him, "Turn away to your right or to your left, seize one of the young men and take his armor for yourself." But Asahel would not turn away from following him. Once again Abner warned Asahel, "Turn away from pursuing me. Why should I strike you to the ground? How would I ever look your brother Joab in the face?" But he refused to turn aside. So Abner struck him with the butt end of the spear in the groin, so that the spear came out through his back. When all who came to the place where Asahel had fallen and dead, they stood still. But Joab and Abishai continued pursuing Abner. As the sun was setting, they reached the hill of Ammah, which faced Giah on the road to the wilderness of Gibeon. Then the sons of Benjamin rallied to Abner and became one group, taking their stand on top of one of the hills. Then Abner called out to Joab and said, "Must the sword devour forever? Don't you realize how bitter it will be in the end? How long until you order the people to stop pursuing their kinsmen?" "As God lives," Joab replied, "if you had not spoken, then surely the people would have gone up until the morning, everyone after his kinsmen." So Joab blew the shofar, and all the soldiers halted and pursued Israel no more, nor did they continue to fight any longer. So Abner and his men marched all that night through the Arabah. Then they crossed over the Jordan and marched through all morning until they reached Mahanaim. Joab returned from pursuing Abner, and when he had gathered all the troops, 19 of David's soldiers besides Asahel were missing. But David's soldiers had struck down many of Benjamin and Abner's men, so that 360 men died. Then they took up Asahel and buried him in his father's tomb, which was in Bethlehem. Joab and his men marched all night until the day dawned on them at Hebron. Chapter 3. Now the war between the house of Shaul and the house of David lasted a long time. While David grew steadily stronger, the house of Shaul grew steadily weaker. Sons were born to David in Hebron. His firstborn was Amnon by Ahinoam of Jezreel. His second was Kileab by Abigail the widow of Nabal the Carmelite. The third was Absalom son of Maacah, daughter of King Talmai of Geshur. The fourth was Adoniah, the son of Haggith. The fifth was Shephatiah, son of Abital. And the sixth, Ithream, by David's wife Eglah. These were born to David in Hebron. During the war between the house of Shaul and the house of David, Abner strengthened his position in the house of Shaul. Now Shaul had a concubine whose name was Rizpah, the daughter of Aiah. And Ishbosheth said to Abner, "Why have you slept with my father's concubine?" But Abner became very angry over Ishbosheth's words and said, "Am I a dog's head from Judah? To this day I've been loyal to the house of Shaul your father, to his kinsmen and to his friends, and I haven't handed you over to David. Yet today you're accusing me of wrongdoing with this woman. May God do so to Abner, and even more if, as Adonai has sworn to David, I don't accomplish this for him, to transfer the kingdom from the house of Shaul and establish the throne of David over Israel and Judah, from Dan to Beersheba. But Ishbosheth could not respond to Abner another word because he was afraid of him. Then Abner sent messengers to David on his behalf, saying, "Whose is the land? Make your covenant with me, and see, my hand will be with you to bring all Israel over to you." "Good," said David, "I will cut a covenant with you, but one thing I require of you. You will not see my face unless you first bring Shaul's daughter Michal when you come to see my face." Then David sent messengers to Shaul's son Ishbosheth, demanding, Give me my wife Michal, whom I betrothed to myself for 100 Philistine foreskins." So Ishbosheth sent and took her from her husband, Paltiel son of Laish. But her husband accompanied her, weeping as he went, and followed her as far as Bahurim. Then Abner said to him, "Go, return." So he returned. Now Abner had a word with the elders of Israel, saying, "In times past you wanted David to be king over you. So now do it, for Adonai has spoken of David, saying, By the hand of my servant David I will deliver my people Israel from the hand of the Philistines and from the hand of all their enemies." Abner also spoke into the hearing of Benjamin. Then Abner went to Hebron to speak in the hearing of David about all that was agreeable to Israel and to the whole house of Benjamin. When Abner came to David in Hebron along with 20 other men, David held a banquet for Abner and men with him. Abner said to David, "Let me get up and go rally all Israel to my lord the king, so that they may cut a covenant with you, and you may reign over all that your soul desires." So David sent Abner away, and he departed in shalom. Just then David's soldiers and Joab came from a raid, bringing with them much spoil. By then Abner was no longer with David in Hebron, but he had sent him away, and he departed in shalom. When Joab and all the soldiers with him arrived, they told Joab, saying, "Abner son of Ner came to the king, and he has sent him away, and he has gone in shalom." Then Joab came to the king and said, "What have you done? Look here, Abner came to you. Why did you send him away? Now he is getting away. You know Abner son of Ner. Surely he came to deceive you, to spy on your goings and comings, and to find out all that you are doing." When Joab left David, he sent messenger after Abner, so they brought him back from the well of Sirah, though David knew nothing about it. Now when Abner returned to Hebron, Joab took him aside within the gate to speak to him privately, and there stabbed him in the groin, so that he died, on account of the blood of his brother Asahel. When David heard about it afterward, he said, "I and my kingdom are innocent before Adonai forever from the blood of Abner son of Ner." May it whirl on Joab's head and on all his father's house. May the house of Joab never be without someone with discharge, or Tza'arat, lame, or one fallen by the sword, or one who lacks food. So Joab and Abishai his brother killed Abner because he had killed their brother Asael at Gibeon in battle. Then David said to Joab and to all the people who were with him, "Rend your clothes, gird with sackcloth, and lament before Abner." King David walked behind the platform. When they buried Abner in Hebron, the king lifted up his voice and wept aloud at Abner's grave, and all the people wept. Then the king chanted a lament for Abner and said, "Should Abner die like a senseless fool? Your hands were not bound, your feet were never put in fetters. As one falls before the children of iniquity, so did you fall." Then all the people wept again over him. Then all the people came to urge David to eat some food while he was still day. But David vowed, saying, "May God do so to me, even more if I taste food or anything else before the sun sets." All the people took note of it, and it pleased them, just as everything the king did pleased all the people. So all the people and all Israel understood that day that it was not the king's will to kill Abner, son of Ner. Then the king said to his soldiers, "Don't you realize that a prince and a great man has fallen in Israel today? So today I am vulnerable, even though anointed king. These men and the sons of Zeruiah are too hard for me to handle. May Adonai reward the evildoer according to his wickedness." Chapter 4. Now when Shaul's son heard that Abner had died in Hebron, his courage sank, and all the Israelites were disturbed. Shaul's son had 2 men who were commanders of raiding bands. The name of one was Baana, and the name of the other Rechab, sons of Rimmon, and the Beerothite of the sons of Benjamin. For Beeroth is also considered part of Benjamin. Though the Beerothites had fled to Gittaim and live there as outsiders to this day. Shaul's son Jonathan had a son whose legs were crippled. He was 5 years old when the news about Shaul and Jonathan came from Jezreel, and his nurse picked him up and fled. It came about as she was hurrying to flee that he fell and was crippled. His name was Mephibosheth. Now the sons of Rimmon the Beerothite, Rechab and Baana, set out and came to the house of Ishbosheth at the heat of the day, as he was taking his midday nap. When they came within the house as though to get wheat, they stabbed him in the stomach. Then Rechab and his brother Baana escaped. When they had gotten within the house, he was lying on his bed in his bedroom. They stabbed him and killed him, then beheaded him and took his head, traveled by the way of the Arabah all night. Then they brought the head of Ishbosheth to David in Hebron, and said to the king, "Here is the head of Shaul's son Ishbosheth, your enemy who sought your life. Today Adonai has avenged my lord, the king of Shaul and his offspring." Then David answered Rechab and his brother Baana, sons of Rimmon the Beerothite, saying to them, "As Adonai lives, who redeemed my soul out of all distress, when someone informed me, saying, 'Look, Shaul is dead,' thinking he was a bearer of good news, I seized him and killed him in Ziklag, instead of rewarding him for his news. How much more when wicked men have killed a righteous person in his own house on his bed? Should I not now require his blood from your hands and rid the earth of you?" Then David commanded the young men, and they slew them, cut off their hands and their legs, hung them up beside the pool in Hebron. But they took the head of Ishbosheth and buried it in the grave of Abner in Hebron.